Teas, where we dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. As I have been moody, cranky, and crampy, down, beauty boo. And so I just been like, following content on hot topics, celeb stuff, up to daily news, politics and things like that. Taking care of my business affairs and minding my BI. So we're gonna talk today about a couple of hot topics, right? First, I want to continue to say we're at 10,000 followers. Like, I really, really, really want to thank all of my blessed besties that follow my content, that like, comment, share, and watch my stuff. Like, thank you guys so very much. Like, we are increasing my watch hours every single day. Y'all are watching my reels. Like, that is so awesome. I'm reaching like top rising creator status all the time. And like, that is just so gratefully amazing. Like, I am overwhelmingly amazed at how much support I have been receiving from my blessed boosts. And nothing but love and thankfulness, gratefulness is pouring out of me. No matter how, I feel within my own world about, health or having the flu, or I'm always making sure that every time we reach a goal or a milestone or jump over a hurdle, or even 10,000 followers, reaching a mountain and going over it, reaching 10,000 followers, I am ever so much, making sure that I acknowledge that. I want you guys to know that I thank you guys for that. And it feels really, really good to have reached 10,000 followers. We did that in like a really short amount of time. I think we've had an influx of followers just over the last like month and a half. And so we have gained like 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers in like a month and a half. So our followers. So Facebook Live, like, I really want to thank y'all. I don't always have to get on here judged up in my, makeup or cute clothes or hair or any of that. Like, I can come on here in my natural girl power energy, and I receive it back from y'all in love, support. And so Tanisha Talks Teas is very, very, very grateful. So we are so thankful to be celebrating our 10,000 followers goal that we reached. Let's keep on reaching for, continuing engaging with upgrading our follower number. So, the higher we get, the better we feel. We are eagles. We do not pigeon walk. We soar with eagles here with Tanisha Talks Teas. So let's go ahead and first start off with some politicking. So Kamala has been still, I feel, leading the charge as far as her campaign is concerned. She was last in Wisconsin, and I listened to that campaign. A lot of people are, asking, well, why does she keep on, hinting at, or not hinting at, going over the same policies and procedures that she wants to implement and wants in office put into place for her as president, for us as a community, as a, United States of America. And she was on the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne the God, and in her exact words, she did say, because, what was that exact word? Hold on, let me find it. I think it was dedication to her policies, will, I think, was it dedication or deal? It was, hold on, let's go ahead and find that. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's look at, here it is, Kamala and Charlamagne on the Breakfast Club. We're not going to put him up on the screen because we don't need no copyright strikes. Um, but let's go ahead and listen. Hold on, I plugged up my speaker, and for some reason it's not applying my sound. So let me go ahead and fix that.
Which is her child. That should give you a chew. And this cougar had come straight up to the window right next to her. Kamala Harris sitting down for a town hall with Charlemagne the God. When pressed on if she supports reparations, she sidestepped and says it needs to be studied. Harris also defending her constant repetitive answers. Listen to this.
But what do you say to people who say you stay on the talking points?
I would say you're welcome. I mean, listen, here's the thing. So repetition is important. And for that reason, yes, at my rallies, I say the same thing when I go to Detroit as I do in Philly, as I do wherever I am, to make sure that people hear and receive what I think are some of the most critical issues that are at stake in this election.
Well, how is that answer, Dana?
Well, I'm just thinking...
So that was what Kamala said on that point with Charlemagne the God. She had some other speaking points that I would like to listen in and touch on. Let's see if we can find those here.
And as vice president, have been a champion for bringing marijuana down on the schedule. So instead of it being ranked up there with heroin, we bring it down. And my pledge is, as president, I will work on decriminalizing it because I know exactly how those laws have been used to disproportionately impact certain populations, and specifically black men. Ask Donald Trump what his plan is for black America. Ask him. I'll tell you what it is. Look at Project 2025. Project 2025 tells you the plan includes making police departments have stop and frisk policies. My plan that is about building up home ownership in the black community. We can do that. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. You can't let anybody take you out of the game by not voting.
Don't let them take you out the game, baby. Let them take you out the game.
Maybe this is the point you're making about what President Obama said. The solutions are not going to happen just overnight.
I really just love how much Avenues is willing and able to work with anyone.
Okay, so we're gonna touch on these black men focused points. Let's go ahead and see if we can't find those. Okay, the black men focus points that Kamala Harris is speaking on. I have heard T.S. Madison speak on them on her show called Fag Talk in the Morning, Maddie in the Morning, with Craig, the writer Stewart. Let's listen here with Kamala Harris with Justin Carter to discuss how she deliver for black men. Let me see, hold on. Because my volume appears to be not playing. Why is that? I don't know. Let me see. Compliments to the Shade Room.
We have not seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all
Okay, y'all, can y'all hear? Please let me know.
When I was running. So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation. A former Ohio State Senator, Nina Turner, she came out on CNN and said, why are you putting black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do, if they want to vote for you or not. So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say?
I'm Justin Carter on ground here in Greenville, North Carolina with the Vice President Kamala Harris. She's announcing something big, not only for black men, but for all black people. We also talked HBCUs. We talked Beyonce. It's all coming up on a special edition and exclusive.
See, for some reason it won't come through my speaker. I don't know why, but I'm working on that right now. It should be
January 2024,
Yes.
you invited us for an Air Force 2 trip
That's
from
okay,
LA
because it's
to
still
Las
kinda-
Vegas.
Remember that?
And it was just with
pretty
Jeff. We
clear
were talking about some
out
policies
of
that you were
the
initiating, and
computer.
now
Let's just
here
write
we
out
are.
that,
How do we get
like
here? You
that.
smell good, you look good.
Oh, that's better than smelling bad. Thank you.
I know. You
Right?
smell great, you look great.
I
Do you
appreciate you.
feel
That's very
great? It has been a whirlwind for you.
I feel good. You know, listen, we have 23 days as of today until the election, and I am in these streets traveling and
My
talking
kids are
with
happy.
folks
They
from
have
here in North
new
Carolina.
controllers for their
It's,
video games.
It's
They are
very
homesick
exciting.
from
You know what's
school. There's a
exciting for me
bug
is,
going around.
like
So
the rally we're about to do this
we
afternoon
are
in states around our
medicating,
country.
hydrating, and
People by the
trying to stay out of
thousands
the way of
are packing
more
these rooms, but the thing that I love about it is people of
viruses.
every different kind of background coming together. And there's so much about how I feel about our message and our movement, if you will, that is grounded in certain beliefs, including the fact that the
I have
vast
to put
majority
on my
of us have
energy
so much more in common
bracelets
than what
so that
separates
I can
us.
channel the right energy,
And
especially as I'm talking to my
It's so
blessed
important to me
besties.
that over the course of this
I'll be listening
campaign,
on Kamala talk about
we must win. That's our
her,
first imperative, no doubt.
impact that
But
she
that
wants
we
to make
build
for
up
black
community.
men in the
Right?
United States.
And coalitions. I think that's so important.
One big theme of your campaign has been freedom.
Yes.
Freedom, right?
Yes. Yes.
Freedom, freedom. I can't
I was just
I'm not
thinking
gonna
that.
mess up
She
the
plays
words.
that
I
at
don't
her
want to
campaign.
sue
It's
by
so good.
Beyonce.
And there are a couple of versions that she has.
And I
know.
encourage you guys to
Did you
check them
call
out
it
if
the
you haven't
Queen? Like, how
already.
did that
Follow her
work?
campaigns.
Well,
They're
she
pretty
absolutely
invigorating
gave me
and
permission to use the song. I
inspiring.
love her. And
Have you met her?
I have met her, but not since I've been running just now.
Okay.
But I have met her, and she's just very special.
And every
Talk
campaign
about
she
freedom and what
leads the
that
charge
means to
with
you, why
Beyonce's
that
freedom.
song. It's just imperative. It's crucial
Freedom,
right now
we
what's
won't be
going on in
moved, or
2024.
freedom,
I
let me
think
loose.
that there is so much about what is at stake that is, frankly, the need for us to fight for the things that we hold dear, that we have always had to fight for, but must continue to fight for if they're going to be intact. And frankly, just to be very candid with you, I'm seeing across our country a full-on attempt by some to attack these hard-won freedoms and rights, right? The freedom to vote. In Georgia, for example, they passed a law making it illegal to give people food and water for standing in line to vote,
the
which the
voting
hypocrisy
rallies.
abounds. Whatever happened to love thy neighbor? You look at the freedom to make decisions, for a woman to make decisions
Please,
about
you
her
guys
own
continue
body
to
and
like
not have her
this
government
video,
tell her
share
what
this
to do.
video,
The
listen
freedom to
in,
love who
hone
you
in
love
closely,
openly and
see
with
what
pride.
is
The
relatable to you,
freedom
your friends and family,
to just
and
be.
your neighboring community you are in and around you. Okay, so we are listening in on Kamala talking with Justin Carter to discuss how she would deliver for black men and make an impact on their futures, no matter what their past has been.
In so many places, and the freedom to be safe from gun violence, right? And so there is so much about what's at stake in this election that really is about fighting for freedom, because the difference between me and my opponent, the former president, Donald Trump, couldn't be more different on so many of these issues. And so I'm so proud, and it always just gives me an extra pep, because Beyonce's Freedom is my walk-on song in all of these rallies. And
Did you guys share a moment, you and Beyonce?
I mean, you know,
What was that conversation like?
She and I have. I'll tell you, the last time that I saw her was a couple years ago at a BT event, and I mean, and her mother, though, I've been seeing a lot recently because Beyonce's been on tour. She's been doing her thing. Tina is so amazing.
Woman of the Year, Glamour.
Yeah. She's very special. She's very special. She's been supporting me for years. And she actually, the last time I talked to her, she was organizing hairstylists and women who have salons and, who are incredible small business owners to get involved around getting out the vote.
Speaking of getting out the vote, you guys are on an HBCU tour.
Yes, we are.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Come on,
we
HU,
You know. In fact, I was with a group of incredible, distinguished men last night in North Carolina, and we were all, because and they were all, there to support my candidacy and to talk about there a lot of them are business owners. But then, I'm not going to say we digress, but we definitely got into it about who went to which school.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
And had a healthy level of disrespect for each other.
Well, oh man, well this next question might be, a little controversial. So if you didn't go to Howard, is there another school?
I can't imagine a world like that.
Would you be a Spelman? Would you be a Spelman girl? Would you go to FAMU? They're very prideful down there in Florida.
And they should be. And there is a reason that Howard is called the Mecca. Ooh. And I'm very proud to be a Bison. See, we all have fun with each other. But you know what? We have fun with each other because here's the thing that we know, all of us. You mentioned all the schools, whether it be Spelman, FAMU, Morehouse, Shaw, all these schools. We have fun banter among us that is absolutely rooted in a collective pride that we share about our HBCU roots, because it is a very special experience, and it is something that gives us a kindred, I think, look on life about pride and about the pride in the success that we collectively achieve, a knowledge that we collectively stand on very broad shoulders of those historic leaders who graduated from each of these schools. And it is actually with that spirit and that sense of family that then we give each other a hard time about which school does what.
It's a good fun.
It's good. It's good fun. It's good fun.
Obviously, we're walking into a week where, you've been talking about really encouraging Black men specifically to get out and vote. And I do want to talk about the numbers. I crunched some numbers at 3 o'clock this morning. Okay. There was a poll on Saturday. It said that almost 80% of likely Black voters would vote for you if the election were held today. In 2020, though, it was 90% of Black voters overall. That was from the New York Times and Siena College. And then in 2016, they also had a poll, the Pew Research Center. They said 81% of Black men voted for Hillary Clinton, 14% voted for Trump. In 2020, though, that number jumped 6%. So 87% of Black men voted for Biden, 12% voted for Trump in 2020. So when you hear those numbers and you're seeing, in the polls, and you're seeing Black men aren't as, quote, excited or fired up for you, how do you respond to that?
Okay, so now we're getting into with Justin Carter and VP Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, prayerfully soon to be president, right? On where her Black vote stands with men.
Okay. One, that's not my experience. 2, election day has not arrived yet.
Okay.
And the third point that is probably the most important point is this. When journalists ask me this question, I often will say to them that let's be clear that your underlying premise is not an assumption that I'm supposed to have Black men in my back pocket in terms of their vote, and that I should be taking that for granted, because I don't. Black men are no different from anybody else. They expect that you have to earn their vote, and that's why I'm out here doing the work that I'm doing, about talking with folks, listening with folks, because I'm running for president of the United States. And it is incumbent on me to earn the support. And that is why I'm talking with folks about the work that I have done in my career, whether it be in particular as vice president, what I've done to put more billions of dollars actually into community banks to increase access to capital for small business owners. Even before I was running for president, I convened a bunch of Black small business owners, all who were men, and I purposely convened them. I brought them into my ceremonial office at the White House to have a a meeting about what their needs are and to make sure that they have the information about what's available to them in terms of financing, capital, and access to capital, support for what they want to do in terms of building or growing their business. So that's the kind of work I will continue to do. But here's the other thing that I think is equally important is pointing out that there are two very different visions for our nation that are being presented to voters right now. On the one side, you've got Donald Trump, who wants to take us backward. Donald Trump, who, let's not forget, when he was renting his apartments and his property, refused to rent to black families. Donald Trump, who, as it relates to 5 young black men, they were actually teenagers and Latinos, the Central Park 5, he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for their execution. They were innocent. Donald Trump, who referred to the first black president and suggested, remember the birtherism lies, that he couldn't have been born in the United States. Donald Trump, who in his Project 2025, you know, the various things that would happen would include allowing it or making it easier for companies to not give workers overtime pay. We capped the cost of prescription medication at $2,000 a year for seniors and capped the cost of insulin at $35 for our seniors. That's our grandparents, our parents. Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. His plan would eliminate that cap. So part of the reason that I am out here talking with folks, listening to folks, is to make sure that I am communicating and letting them know about the real contrast that is being presented. Because my bottom line is this. I know the power that people have to make a difference. And I respect that power. And I'm out here doing the work of earning then the vote so that we can get to the job of continuing to move forward. And for me, that is about pushing for an opportunity economy, which is about tapping into the ambitions and the aspirations of folks and doing the work of investing in community, investing in industries, strengthening our economy, and giving people dignity in the process.
Now, you have a friend. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. You know him?
I do.
He recently, in Pittsburgh. President, let's get it right.
Yes.
Yeah, President. President Barack Obama. He was campaigning for you in Pittsburgh before some students at the University of Pittsburgh, which is my alma mater. And he said some things that really ruffled some feathers in the news. He said, it makes me think you aren't just feeling the idea of having a woman as a president. You're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. We have not seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all corners of our neighborhoods and community as we saw when I was running. So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation. You know, a former Ohio State Senator, Nina Turner, she came out on CNN and said, why are you putting black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do if they want to vote for you or not. So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say?
Let me tell you, I am very proud to have the support of President Obama and that he is out traveling to talk with voters about what is at stake in this election. I'm very proud to have his support. What is also important is, one, to understand, like as I said, I intend to earn the vote of everyone, including black men. 2, pay attention to everything that President Obama talked about, because he also talked about, at length, the danger of Donald Trump. The danger of Donald Trump in terms of somebody who has said that they would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, somebody who has referred to black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, legal immigrants, as though they would eat their pets, constantly perpetuating tropes. Remember, Donald Trump, who said in Charlottesville, there are good people on each side. So I think it's really important to focus on the stakes of this election. And there are 2 choices. two choices. And I ask everyone to look at the background, look at the work, look at the words, to have a sense of how you then choose to use the power of your vote on election day. But there is a very big difference between Donald Trump and how I will be president of the United States. And I cannot impress upon people enough that this is somebody, Donald Trump, who intends to take us backward. Look, this man won't even debate me a second time. He won't even debate me a second time. He didn't do the 60 minutes.
Who's here for a second debate? We've only got until November 5th. We're going to talk about that as soon as we listen to the finishing up of this interview.
Take up the important responsibility that every presidential candidate has done of showing their medical records. Okay?
Which you
I
just
think
did.
which I have done. Of course I've done it. I have done that. I have challenged him to another debate. I have given up my medical records. I did the 60 Minutes interview. And one has to ask, what is Donald Trump trying to hide? What is his staff and his team trying to keep from you? And it may be the fact that, like the people who work closest with him, his chief of staff in the White House, his national security advisor, his secretaries of defense. Recently, we got the report about General Mark Milley, who all, in some, have basically said Donald Trump is unfit to be president of the United States and is a danger.
Oreo and Coca-Cola just became besties.
Okay. Donald Trump not wanting to turn over those medical records. Why?
Are believing that all of this points to an individual who is also quite unstable and unfit to be president of the United States. Those are the stakes at play in this election.
One more thing I want to ask you before you go, and I think it's the fun part. I want to ask you about your plan for black men.
Yes.
It's something huge
Yes.
that you have just released this week.
Let's
We're
get
talking
into
about
it.
1 million loans that are fully forgivable, up to $20,000
Right.
to black entrepreneurs, men and women,
Yes.
correct? Expanding access to bank accounts, expanding the child tax credit. Many things that you're
Housing.
doing.
Don't
Housing,
forget my housing.
lowering rent, making it affordable to buy a house for
Yes.
first-time home buyers.
Correct.
Talk to me about this
Yes.
plan, just in summary,
Yeah.
and how this will impact not only black men, but all black people.
Sure. So look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother worked hard. She saved up. And by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I will never forget where I came from. Okay, by the way, my opponent, Donald Trump, was handed $400 million basically on a silver platter and filed for bankruptcy 6 times. So just keep that in mind about who's coming from where. I know the ambitions, the aspirations, the incredible work ethic that exists in our community. I know the dreams that exist, but not everyone has started out on the same base in terms of being able to realize their goals and their dreams. So my plan is to build what I call an opportunity economy, which means giving people an opportunity to actually achieve those ambitions, those goals, and those dreams. So, for example, housing is too expensive. The American dream is something that previous generations could kind of count on, but no more. So, one part of the problem is that we have a supply issue in terms of housing supply. My plan includes working with developers to do and home builders to create incentives for them to build 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. The second part, which is equally important, if not more, is to give people, first-time home buyers, a $25,000 down payment assistance. Because what you and I know is a lot of folks want to be a homeowner, but they don't come from money. They don't come from some families that can necessarily give them or pass on a home or give them the equity out of their home to help them with the down payment. $25,000 down payment assistance just helps people get their foot in the door to then save up to cover a mortgage. $6,000 child tax credit. I'm expanding the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families, so that in the first year of their child's life, they have the resources they need to buy a crib, a car seat, clothes, knowing that all parents have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not all parents have the resources to be able to do that. Opportunity. Small businesses. My second mother, our second mother, who helped raise us, was a small business owner. I know who our small business owners are. For our communities, they are part of the cultural, economic, civic fabric of our communities. They hold the strength of hiring locally, mentoring, all that. So I'm going to change so that the tax deduction for a startup small business, change it from what it is, it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000 to $50,000. And included in that, knowing that a lot of startup businesses then have overhead around, for example, what they need to do to buy equipment. For those who are startup and don't have the connections historically, a $20,000 forgivable loan for them to be able, for example, to pay to set up a really good website so
Do you
that
fear
their
that
business
it might
could then
intersect
thrive.
with PPP loans and how, you know, a mess, some people were involved with that, the PPP loans and fraud and all of that?
Fraud, listen, I spent a career prosecuting people for fraud, so we will take care of the abuses, but that's not a reason to not give people an opportunity to thrive. You know, I think there is a real misconception that people just, and only their highest aspiration is to have a job. That's not where I come from in terms of how I think of it. The baseline should be everybody has a job. What we should be doing is creating incentives for people to be able to build wealth and build intergenerational wealth. But again, knowing that not everybody starts out on the same base, but when you give them a little bit to just compete, they will work around the clock, good ideas, innovative ideas, and when they have just that little bit extra, it gives them what they need to actually get in there and compete and thrive. That's the $20,000. That's the theory behind the $20,000 forgivable loan for people at a certain threshold, to just give them the resources, like I said, to start up a website, to buy the equipment they need depending on the kind of business that they're creating, so that that's not the barrier to what otherwise is going to be their incredible work ethic and hustle to actually make a success out of their smart idea that actually has relevance to the community.
Wow. We are watching. Thank you so much, Vice President
You're
Kamala
welcome.
Harris, for joining
It's good
us.
to be with
It's
you.
so important that you're
Good to be
here
back with you.
talking with us, Black media. It's so important.
Of course,
Thank you.
always, always.
Okay, blessed besties. That was Kamala with Justin Carter on how she will deliver for Black men. So my takeaway, lowering housing, supporting small businesses. I'm looking to build $3 million or 3 million new homes by the end of her first term. Giving $50,000 in startup business with profits, with 20 to 25,000 of it being forgivable loans, right? So that is a great incentive to, you know, put what you have cooking, brewing, stewing, you know, working on a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Not just, oh my God, I'm going to college, I want to be, you know, this type of business professional. However, I'm not understanding, you know, where or how my Black ass is going to get the capital or any type of, you know, revenue. Even with working a job, where that's going to come in, right? To be able to even save up to do it or anything of, you know, that nature. So Kamala saying lowering housing, making it, you know, affordable first and foremost for you to be able to achieve and obtain some of those much needed, you know, acquiring necessities for one's life, right? So that you can start to think about, okay, now let me put my small project into, you know, the atmosphere to come to fruition. Like, okay, now I can think about having a family. Whereas to before, all my money was going towards paying back student loans, paying off debts, rents, loans, things like that, to keep me and my wife, my family afloat. We've been thinking about having kids, but we don't believe we can afford children in this economy. You know, lowering things to a, like she said, competing median, balancing out the economic, area for those of us that, otherwise wouldn't be able to, or of course would love to, however, just don't have the revenue and place to understand where that would look for us. Now you have a place to go with Kamala's policies and procedures and things that she wants to do for you and I and everyone. It will be implemented. Okay? So, loan forgiveness, lowering housing, working out, people with student loans. I'm hearing that they're already starting to work on student loans. Like, if you've been a teacher or a doctor or a nurse, for like 5, 10, 20 years, or however, and your loans are high and you got, payments high and things like that, that they are qualifying, and they are, because I've been watching some home buying shows where they have been forgiving teachers' loans, nurses' loans, things like that. I know, me personally, I did qualify for the student loan forgiveness when Biden implemented it. However, I have not been able to, adjust that on my credit as of yet, because they haven't forgiven mine. In those categories, I'm not a teacher. I just became a nurse. And so I don't qualify for the length of time that I've been a nurse. I'm looking at all the qualifying factors because I need my student loans forgiven. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but my black ass does. Okay. Okay, let's take this into consideration. Say, I have an associate's degree in applied science, right, from the Community College of Denver. When I got it several years ago, because I've acquired it now, it's been like 8 years since I've had my associate's degree in applied science from the Community College of Denver. I could at that time acquire a good job with my associate's degree. So I worked at the Community College of Ashford Community College. And so I had a great job. I was making really great salary money at that job. However, that job did not last forever. And so as, things moved how they did in the, job sector of life, working sector of life, you are barely acquired if you only have an associate's degree to go into, like, say, under an executive position, a director, a marketing position. You will start at a entry-level position with an associate's degree at almost any place of business that you go to find employment at in Colorado. I don't know about everywhere, but I can speak for Colorado, Florida, New York, Miami, tech, like, big city where we have big cities like, Denver, Tampa, New York, LA, you know what I'm saying? Like, in those, in that sector with that degree, you really only qualify to work at an entry-level position. Unless like, we can go into the layers and the levels of it, and trust me, I know them, because that's how I stay on top of my life in this game. So, not for nothing. So what that looks like, right, in these high economy cities and places of the United States of America, you're still barely under the median of economic living. You're not even middle class living. You're barely making $35,000, $40,000 an hour, or a year, right? That's like 19, 20, 18, 21, $22 an hour, maybe. Then you're pushing up in the $50,000, $55,000, $1,000 a year. Well, where I live in Colorado, that barely gets you to a median level, not middle, median. Median's here, middle class is here. To afford to live in Colorado, where studios are over $1,000, $1,500. You do have our low income and affordable, our market rate prices. And because they have done this with the, college furthering your education, where if you stop at a certain level where you feel good enough to want to just continue on, furthering your work with your education, and you stop at maybe an associate's or a bachelor's degree, you fall in market rate and affordable housing status. You see what I'm saying? So with that being said, with Kamala's policies and practice procedures that she wants to put into practice to see how these things will work over in the community, it will lower our cost of living, give us a better advantage of higher paying jobs, where if you have an associate's degree, you have intertransferable, marketable skills with a bachelor's degree, welding, electrician, plumbing, whatever. You see what I'm saying? You're doing, where you will get paid a little bit closer to that middle level of economic living. You may even reach it. You see what I'm saying? It's quite closely possible that we can still remain on the cusp of surviving out here if that happens and can be put into practice for us. Okay, so that is how I'm looking at it. So like I said, that's why I would love for my student loans to be forgiven, which is why as soon as Biden put it into existence out here for us, I jumped on it like the second I saw it. And I was qualified to receive my student loans forgiven. Okay. Another point that I was going to touch on with that would be when I graduated from the Community College of Denver with, great, skills, all that good stuff. I do get good jobs, and I am, doing fine. I'm doing okay. However, I have not paid off my student loans. So ever since I've stopped going to college, I've been in forbearance several times. I've been in forgiveness several times. But my student loans have almost doubled since I've graduated to you would think I'd have a bachelor's degree with what my student loans look like, with only graduating with an associate's degree. An associate's degree cost me like $25,000 or something like that. I think I owe like $37,000 in student loans. So, and you see what I'm saying? Like, they've almost doubled since I've graduated with the interest. So, hence why we need, for us to vote in the right direction. Like, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I don't understand the Republican views or the Democratic views. I understand what's coming out of such said politician's mouth, and that's what I listen to. That's why I am an independent voter. I don't care about what the Republicans are squawking or what the Democrats are cooking up. I honestly do not care. But I do care about what is circumventing around my orbit of my life. So therefore, I'm an independent person that does follow the side of politics that I need to know to stay in the game and ahead of the game, so that I'm not voted out. And if I am voted out, in a sense of understanding like our reproductive rights being taken away from us, I want to know where that looks like and what that looks like in all areas of life, so that I can, take that on if need be necessary in my life. So, okay. That's just where I am on the political side of the politicking. Kamala, to me, seems to still be standing strong. I'm loving every time she comes out. She's not scared. She's not, like seeming as if she's unconfident about her stance on where she's at, with where she wants to be, with being the president of the United States. And I want to continue to support, campaign, thank her so very much. And everything, every plight, every stance, everywhere that she goes, I wish she'd come to Denver or Aurora. Trump was here. Trump was here and said whatever, however, I didn't listen to. I don't follow Trump. Yes, I ordered something from Walmart because I'm doing a live on Facebook. I didn't know I had a code. Hold on.
What is the code?
4694
4696?
4 4694. Okay, so back to politicking about Kamala. So, like I said, I think Kamala is doing a wonderful job campaigning. I will continue. Thank you, baby. I will continue to follow Kamala. Voting is November 5th. Please vote, vote, vote. I got my mail-in vote. If you can't make it down to the rallies, which I do not recommend everybody, especially in every major big city, to go to the rally or the voting polls and vote because of the potential danger that it may cause. I'm not saying don't vote. Mail your vote back in by boat. Mail your vote back in, okay? You can also go online and vote. So where you can go online and vote is simply type in online voting. Okay. Go to online voting, official voting resources. Click on your state. Mine is Colorado. Okay, I'm actually going to show you guys this of how you can go on and vote. Okay, so here you are. Mine is Colorado. Register to vote there. Check your registration status is here. Okay. You put all your information in. So I'm going to simply put mine in. Okay. Okay. So now I'm searching for my register to vote. There I am. Okay. I have my ballot information here, in-person voting details, county and district information. Okay. So I have my voter ID, my counter registry date. I am an active registered voter. I have no party affiliations because I'm not like a Republican. I'm an independent. My address of where. Okay, and that's how you go to make sure you are registered to vote. Okay, so you go to online voting, simply click that, search that, find your local election office. Okay, here is a pretty colorful map here. County or Colorado County Clerks and Recorder websites. You click on that. I am somewhere around in here. Okay, so you click on that. And then there you go, where your county election offices will be at, okay? Boom. Find your voting location. How do I receive my ballot? Every voter receives a mail-in ballot, silly. The ballot will be sent to the mailing address you provided for your voter registration file. To check the address on file or to make any changes to your voter registration, visit www.govotecolorado.gov, right? So that will be whatever state you live in, www.govote, whatever state.gov you live in. Okay, if you prefer to vote at the polls, you can vote in person at a voter service and polling center. Please visit govotecolorado.gov to find your polling locations. How do you know if your ballot has been mailed in? Okay. Check the status of your ballot, right? So you go right where I showed you, and it'll show you if it's been mailed. If you have any further questions, go to colorado.ballottracks.net to sign up to track your voting ballot, okay? Will my other votes be counted if I choose not to vote on a candidate or a question? Yes. If you choose to leave a race or question blank, your other votes will still be counted, okay? So, every valid mail ballot is counted. Okay, every valid mail ballot is counted. So valid means you must complete it, right? Fill it out, send it back no later than 7 p.m. on election day. So whatever election day is for you in your city, look it up. Mine is November 5th, okay? In Colorado, wherever you are in the world. It's 7 p.m. on election day, okay? So that's how we're voting here, okay? We are voting by mail, we are voting at the polls, and we are voting online. Okay? Please understand that your Dropbox locations are open and they are under video surveillance, okay? So, I'm assuming that would mean that, say like somebody tries to rob the vote, like we've known them to do, maybe they'll have it on CCTV. But we're going to pray for a good, clean vote, right? We're going to pray for that. Okay, so that's voting. Okay? We're voting online, by mail, and by in person. Okay? Go to online voting, find out here, put your state. If you're registered to vote, where your voting location is, and check your registration status by November 5th, no later than 7 p.m. Okay, that was our politicking on politics section here. So now we're going to get into something a little bit more fun. Okay. What do y'all... Oh, no, I'm going to leave my politicking on politics video off here. So I got something I got to do. So I'm going to be back to get into something a little bit more, entertaining in the realms of celebs. Okay, so we're going to do that. We'll come back later. I got my hot top tea for that. We're going to talk tea and it's hot piping. So we're going to talk about that later, maybe in about a couple hours or so. I'll log back in here and I will talk some entertaining tea talk on some celeb stuff. So we got Diddy stuff. We got Ray J stuff. We got Jaguar Wright shit. She was on Corey Holcomb. Like, we got a bunch of cool shit we going to talk about, y'all. It's hot out here in these streets. And it's on fire down to them poles, okay? Keep it hot, y'all. Keep the tea hot. I will be back. This has been Tanisha, and I'm talking tea with my blessed besties. I love y'all. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay stimulated.